Open Minds Media.
Indiana County 911. My brother's gone. Can you be a little more specific, sir? He took my brother. Who took him? I don't know who took him. I don't know what. Sir, take a breath. Explain to me what happened.
And I looked out and there was this big red blinking UFO.
I can just say this. Something's going on in the woods. Something's going on. They're not dogs. They're not coyotes. What could it be, right?
I had an encounter with a skunk ape, and it completely altered the course of my life.
I found a skull. I think you guys are going to want to come film this.
Put them out. 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 Put them out.
I just see it.
Sightings of a UFO hovering over a barn.
Millie woke up from a dream, and when I went into the bedroom, she said, "There's a monster on the wall."
They saw that the creature had run through a barbed wire fence. They were able to obtain hairs. They sent the hairs to their lab, and it came back as an unknown creature.
Bizarre Encounters with Shayn Orin.
What is up, Bizarrites, and welcome back to the most bizarre show on the internet. I am the one that, 5 people now call Shane Squatch.
Oh my god, what the fuck is that, bro?
Grab his dick and twist it!
I may be scary, but please don't grab my dick and twist it. And alongside me, I have the big bad Boo Daddy himself, Sir Orin Felix.
I am your big daddy, and I am gonna kiss the boo-boo.
Okay.
Got to mix it up a little bit for you, but...
You're a big fan of that grab your dick and twist it soundbite, aren't you?
Hey, that one's one of my personal favorites. That one...
I can tell.
And the what the hell is even that? And speaking of what the hell is even that, the usual, we got to give a shout out to our number one main listener, Mr. Mans over there, a.k.a. the Blood Chugger. He sends me a clip of the... Daddy chill, and then the guy turned around going, what the hell is even that? And he said something like, oh yeah, I think of you guys. And I'm like, I hope that you exclusively think of me every single time you see this clip, because it is one of the best on the internet, and I would love to be associated with it.
You've done it, Shane. You've ruined the internet single-handedly.
No, I just got to get the grab his dick and twist it and make sure we're associated with that one too.
I mean, I feel like you already are. That's your core thing at this point. So.
I'm gonna try to make some big intro for Shane Squatch, and I'm definitely gonna make sure I include that in there. Maybe I'll even throw it in the end outro for the show from now on. I guess the listeners will have to stick around and figure that part out.
Okay. So on that note, not really any news and updates for this week. The only thing we got is the next episode of Bizarre Inquiries is going to be September 4th. That's a Thursday. It's going to be roughly 7:15 Eastern time on the Open Minds Media YouTube channel.
The last one was a banger, by the way. So if anybody hasn't went and checked that one out, that was probably one of our best, and you guys should definitely go back and check that one out.
Yeah, I listened back to that episode, and I went hard on my NBA draft sports conspiracy. So that was a fun one to do. I hope the listeners enjoyed it. Something a little bit different than we normally do, but hey, it was fun for me to talk about.
Dude, we get a lot of listeners for Bizarre Inquiries, believe it or not. We started that off just making it like a basic YouTube show that's just kind of thrown on there. But dude, some of our top episodes are that. I really think that people like when we dive into stuff like that. It gives us a different means to be able to talk about some stuff, connected in with stuff. But I don't know, man, that show seems like it's pretty popular, especially when we cover the conspiracy stuff. People love the conspiracy stuff, man. That's why I think that last episode was such a banger, is because we did a solid conspiracy episode, dude.
Well, I mean, I had fun doing it. You guys know we love the conspiracy stuff, but if you want us to talk more about conspiracies or anything else, you guys be sure to send us clips or articles or questions or videos, basically anything you want us to inquire about. It doesn't even have to be something paranormal related. It can be, we talk about some weird shit on there from time to time. It can be something completely off the wall, but just, send us whatever you want us to talk about. And also be sure to join us in the chat while we're live.
And if you guys happen to want to contact us for any reason whatsoever, including sending some of those clips possibly, or even some conspiratorial questions you guys want us to dive into, you guys can get a hold of us through email, which is bizarreencounters@outlook.com, or you guys can hit us up through social media, or you guys can always call or text the OMM hotline. That number is 313-364-1551, and you guys are text or call that 24/7, and that also goes for sending in clips, articles, all of that. If you guys find something, just easily text us over the clip to the OMM hotline, and that's one quick, easy way to get it to us, so make sure you guys do that. And talking about support for the show, there are a handful of ways that you awesome listeners out there can support all of this outrageously ridiculous work that we do. The first way, Orin, why don't you let them know what it is?
Well, you guys can follow the show on Instagram or Facebook.
Or you guys can always go and check out our Patreon with 2 tiers available, ad-free / early access and full access. And with that, of course, you guys get Inquiries of Our Reality, Bizarre Encounters, Bizarre Inquiries, and some bonus episodes. So a lot of bang for your buck over there.
You can check out the merch store with t-shirts starting at just $15.68. Wow, that's oddly specific.
Plus shipping, but so around $20. Not too bad. Not too bad for the average shirt, considering most shirts cost about $20. So, show some love and support for the little guys and go check out our shirts for that weirdly bizarre price. And while you're at it, you guys could also leave a review on any podcatcher you happen to use. 1 and 5 stars only, as we tend to say, and we will read it on the show and give you guys a shout out. The only difference is if you send a 1-star review, we might, ridicule you a little bit, but hey, that's part of the fun.
I'm sure whatever ridiculing we get is well deserved. But you guys be sure to also share the show and like and subscribe. And y'all know how the internet works. Just do the internet things.
And the last way you guys can support us is by going and watching any of our lives that we do for this show or Inquiries of Our Reality. And you guys can check those out over on YouTube and on Twitch exclusively on the Open Minds Media channels.
And as always, all the shit we've mentioned is in the link tree in the show description.
Please welcome to the show a man with a rather fascinating story. Please welcome to the show, Gary Arnold. How's it going today, man?
Oh, doing great. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, Gary, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Shane's told me a lot about you. I'm super excited to have you on the show and kind of pick your brain a little bit and hear about your encounter. So would you mind sharing a little bit about yourself and your encounter and whatever else you'd like to share with us?
Sure. So I'm just a regular guy, nothing special. And, I just want to say that this can happen to anyone. I don't know why it's happened to me. But back in December 2017, working at the local HBCU, I would take my lunch breaks in the library, usually to get away from the students, so it'd give me a little me time, right? Teaching writing and literature. Okay. And so this was right before Christmas break, so the students already went home, but the faculty and staff were still there, but they weren't in the library. So I was doing my usual thing in the library, going over and just do some free reading. I like history and I like obviously literature and stuff like that. So I decided with the holiday spirit, no pun intended, maybe, I was going to read some Charles Dickens, A Christmas Carol, which in real life, we all see the movies and stuff over the years, all the different versions of it. It's a rather short story, Charles Dickens, A Christmas Carol. So I was like, okay, I can just sit down and read this. And no one was in the library, totally empty, top floor of the library. And I got this strange noise in only my right ear. And I can't describe it except to say it's high-pitched, crystalline sounding, unlike regular ear ringing. So I decided, okay, this is weird. What is that noise? And a thought came to me. I have an old track phone, all right, an Alcatel 205G track phone in my pocket. My wife made me get that. She's like, I want to be able to reach you anywhere. And I'm not Mr. Tech Savvy. I'm not Mr. Smartphone. So I'm like, okay, I have this old phone, this track phone in my pocket. Mm-hmm. I said, it probably has a digital voice recorder. Yeah, maybe I could figure out what this noise is. I'm going to record it. So I push record just for a few seconds. And upon playback, I don't hear the noise. And I thought, oh, that's weird. But I hear something that sounds very quiet. And it's a whisper. And when I amplify the whisper, I turn up the volume on the phone. It says Mr. Arnold. It says my name. Huh. So I thought, okay, this is weird. I'm trying to figure out how this is happening. And I was puzzled because I looked around, no one's around. And I just thought, well, this is just a fluke. Maybe there was some kind of satellite interference or radio interference that got on my, old school track phone. So I was a little puzzled and I left. And then I came back again and I thought, the next time for lunch, I thought, well, I wonder if lightning will strike twice. Mm-hmm. And it's good to have a positive attitude. So that noise returns. and I'm not reading anything at this point. I'm just sitting there. No students are there. No one's in the library except on the very bottom floor, where the entrance is, at the circulation desk. And I hear the noise, and this time I decide to ask a question. And this high-pitched crystalline noise in only my right ear, and I say, "Is there anyone there?" Now, upon playback, you don't hear the noise either, but you hear a whisper saying, "Yes, people." Okay, now I'm really uncomfortable with it because I'm like, what is going on? And I started to be concerned that, obviously this seemed like a direct response to my question. Obviously, I'm not recording some strange noise on the phone. I'm actually recording just my voice and this whisper that, once amplified is interacting with me. So I went at home and I told my wife and kids, and I'm like, I'm concerned about dementia. There's no history of it, but I said, and the rational me doesn't, really embrace this stuff. I've always believed, raised Christian in a Protestant household, I believe in God and an afterlife, but basically God doesn't really interact through strange messages or something. So I was right away thinking, well, is this some kind of product of my imagination? Is this something that's a reason in my brain or something, or the phone? Maybe there's some kind of defect in the phone. But long story short, I went to the doctor because this continued. We had our Christmas break, our holiday break, and we came back in January. And I started to record messages almost every day. And I went to see the doctor, and we did a thorough workup. I let him hear, my family doctor, the actual EVPs I was recording. And he wanted to leave no stone unturned. So he was like, we're going to do a full workup. At first, the insurance company wasn't going to buy it. They let me have the high contrast MRI scans. They don't want to pay for that. So you have to start, categorizing it, labeling it as audio hallucinations. That way I was able to get the high contrast MRIs with the dye and everything, so they could take a really great look at my brain. I also had the full spectrum workup, blood workup in case, because in this area, Pennsylvania, there's a risk of Lyme disease. And Lyme disease in its later stages not only affects the heart and the other organs, but also the brain. It can cause dementia. So we had to, again, eliminate all the different prosaic reasons. And the same thing. Are you crazy? I mean, am I crazy? So one by one, we checked it off. So there's no organic reason for this experience. Plus, I'm able to have other people listen to these. And I started to get a reputation in the sense. I started researching it on the side and getting it into certain circles of people who deal with that. Because, I'm not a scientist or anything. My background, I'm curious. I have a curious nature, but my background, I'm very much a person with an analytical mind, and I just this seemed nonsensical. However, it was a mystery. I love the game of chess. I love puzzles. I love solving puzzles. So this turned into an exercise where I started to get the attention, recognition of certain people in certain circles. In the intelligence community, and
it's because of the way you're going about it. Because with a huge difference that I like to mention, at least to this part in your story, is the fact that you went through all the process of trying to make sure that this wasn't, just a fluke, for example. Because a lot of people that we talk about on the show, they'll have an experience, and a lot of people will jump to conclusions. But you're one of the few people that went the full way around to make sure that this is actually a phenomenon that's happening. So I always like to point that part out in your story, because very few people would have gone that extra mile to actually do that, to make sure that there is something weird going on here.
And thank you for that. And I'm just, it's my nature. I wanted to get to the bottom of this mystery, but I certainly didn't want to,
We apologize, guys, for the interference, but we will be right back. And now back to the show.
Pareidolia is a real thing. All right. People can see patterns and randomness, and patterns that don't really exist. So I needed to have this objectively evaluated by these scientists. So I enlisted a group of people in the U.S. intelligence community. People, you can see everything. The bottom line is everything. All my experience and everything is free. I don't charge a penny for it. I'm going to get to the reason in a moment. And it becomes more sensational and outrageous as I go. But it started to be that I was able to not just interact with these beings, but they knew things. They would interact with me, and most of the time, let's say 80% of the time, when I'm going to ask a question, upon playback of the recording, you'll hear the direct response, the answer to my question before I ask it. And they play games. They can glimpse the future. Now that is well, I don't know what to say beyond. They say they're alien. And you can listen to the clips that they say they're otherworldly. All this stuff is, for public consumption. I'm very old school, like I said. So I have a Medium article that I posted back in 2021, and it was January. And I just kept adding to it. Like, this interview will be part of, the recording will be part of this monstrous page I've created from my Medium article, which was, just an investigation of my experiences with the EVP, the mystery and these messages. And I have the interviews with different scientists, with different Dr. Gary Nolan, Stanford University. He's in the news a lot with ufology and stuff. And he's also a person who's worked with the charts and those people who've been affected with their brains and being affected by exposure to what some UFOs, but also the government brought him some files. I'm not going to go too deep into his story, but yeah, people who've been Havana syndrome. All right. It's real. All right. But a lot of people, it's just like some things mainstream media is not going to talk about too much because it makes people uncomfortable. The same thing when I started really digging in and going for a deep dive into this, once I realized I'm not crazy, I'm not, there's no reason, and my family doctor, all these people were on board. I started interacting and recording all kinds of messages, including some about, the military, our military, and what, let's say, Iran's going to do or something like that. I won't go into any depth, but I'm just skimming the surface here.
Just out of curiosity, because I know you can't go too far in depth with that. Just out of curiosity, you said you had connection with some of these like government officials. Were they requesting that you like ask certain questions? You don't have to get more in depth than that. Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, they had a list. The way we do it, since we had a time frame when a lot of times I would say, okay, within this 20 minutes in the library, they're going to make contact with me. What questions do you have? All right, and then they would have me record the raw clip, the interaction, and then text it to them, all right, within that 5-minute window, all right? And some of these questions I could not possibly know the answer to. Like, let's say there's something on a park bench in Washington State in a blue can. What's in the can? And they just put it there, and then I have like, I'm just using this as an innocuous, but this is one that actually happened. So, upon playback, the entity says a battery. I hear it loud and clear. It's a Class A EVP, which anybody who's open-minded would say, I hear the word battery. Yeah. And that was the right answer. So that leads to other people asking questions. And it's all pro bono because I wanted certain clips of mine analyzed. I needed, their technique, their abilities that I don't have. And I would ask questions for them. So, I started getting into, like I said, all these interactions where the entities tell me where they exist. They don't eat. All right. Mm-hmm. They don't do that. They know the names of my family members. They know nicknames. They know pets that have passed. They have this. It is absolutely insane. All right. When you start thinking about it, but the most recent developments, and that's why, in the interest of time, I have so much out there. Anyone in your audience can go and check it out. We Are Not Alone, Medium, Gary Arnold. You're going to find so much, and you can do your own deep dive into it. But what is more recent is the development where EVP messages have helped me win significant lottery jackpots with the Pennsylvania lottery. So much so that my ugly mug was on every kiosk and every terminal of the Pennsylvania lottery, holding because I'm a repeat winner, holding my big ticket, and basically I was ubiquitous, and that is real world results. All right, EVP messages. I say I knew beforehand, and I actually, I was on the radio station and the local 98 Rock. These are all out there. It's all public domain. All right, I'm not talking about the intelligence community here. That's something separate. I'm saying winning lottery and the odds are ridiculous. And to be, to not only that, once you start, the people, there's a sensational aspect. Everybody wants free money. All right. And that's one of the reasons I'm not charging. I'm like, I don't need your money. Why don't you, just check it out, evaluate the stuff on your own. And then one of the things I mentioned before was that these thoughts, whether it's inspiration or whatever it is, I think that what we call muse and things like that, I think sometimes that also is them. They're interacting with us on a subliminal level, because I had some of my clips evaluated, and not just for the EVP, but AI independently, objectively evaluating these clips. They peel away the layers. There's subliminal messages. They are other conversations about me, about what I'm talking about. So, like an example I've used many times is I'm a big pigeon lover. I've imported pigeons from all over the world. Tropical pigeons. Pigeons are cool, and I don't know if it's like a spiritual thing to me, but there's so many different breeds and so many different species. So anyhow, so I had some extra that I didn't need because I had too big of a flock. I had some extra white homing pigeons, like a pair of these that I need to get rid of. So I go to the ethereal, and one of the things I want to make a point of, at one point at the university library, I asked them if I'm tethered here, I could only interact with them there. They said no. From that point on, I'd be able to do it anywhere. Now, again, the caveat is it's when they want to talk, not when I want to talk. So it can be in the middle of the night. I mean, it can wake me from, sleep, and I hear the ear ringing, and I have to decide, do I want to interact or not? But going back to what I was saying about the pigeon clip. So I asked them, should I sell my white homing pigeons? Now, upon playback, you hear a loud, probably one of the loudest Class A EVPs. Sell them. It's emphatic. It's so clear. And the thing is, I knew this clip was special on many levels. Number one, like I said, I'm a pigeon aficionado, just awesome birds. And I get like this connection with them. And each one has a personality. And then, but I had the clip evaluated. So you have, obviously, the Class A EVP, sell them, comes before my question. Again, they're answering before my question. And then they peel away with this AI bleeding edge software. These people who also work in evaluating Havana syndrome. All right. So there's a whole dimension here that I need to discuss. So they're using this technology to tear apart this clip. It's only a few seconds long. In that clip, when they peel away the layers, there's a discussion by something that sounds female saying, how much do you think he'll get for him? What kind of pigeons? How many are the homer? It's all there. Now, wow. The report on this I have online. It's free. All these, everything I went after winning the lottery, certainly there was a greater interest in, and when you win 2 times, there were people who were like, I won't say who, but there was a famous person who's like, hey, we can do this together, and I can make sure that you break mainstream. And I said, I want the credit here. I said, I don't want you to just write a paper about me, and and have it peer reviewed and everything. But I said, I just it's not. For me, it's not about maybe fortune and glory. You think about Indiana Jones. It's the real deal. And I try again. The hardest thing is to contact certain mainstream media, and they right away they said, we don't care if you win $1 trillion. We're not going to be the ones. Somebody else can break this, because there are people out there who are going to get very upset thinking that this is the bigger reality. And I encountered that when I was on the radio, that you had a group of somebody pulled off to the side of the road, and they didn't want to go to work because of what I was saying on the radio. So there's unforeseen consequences if what I'm saying is true. Like I've talked to the lottery. They're like, hey, we consider what you're doing the same as going to see a psychic. We're not going to, have anything against you on this. I mean, obviously, if I won too many times and too big, then it becomes like, it seems like I have an advantage that other people don't. That would make some people upset. The same thing, like I said, some of these clips are a political hot potato. Like in 2020, all right, COVID was, everywhere. And I being the curious person that I am, I was like, well, who's going to win this presidential election? All right. So I went there in September of 2020, and I've got a clear response before I asked the question, of course, because that's what, for whatever reason, that's what they do. But again, I was told by a certain group of people, don't talk about this because 80 million people are going to hate you and 80 million people are going to love you. And do you want to be that person, who is going to have that kind of hate level that somehow you're in collusion with whoever? And, I've been accused of many things of what I'm doing is sorcery, because I'm able to actually take, and this is an outgrowth of, again, this inspiration, wherever you want to say it comes from, that I'm able to take one of my static EVP clips, all right, the one that I won the lottery recently, and I play that through my Google voice. It transcribes it. The transcription, it actually, you can ask questions. It's like this EVP is dynamic. It's not static. So I can get an interaction through that with the clip opens up like portals of conversation that continue. It's so out there. And I'm like, where did this inspiration, where did this come from? This insight that I mean, that's just something you would stumble across. I don't know. I mean, again, everything's public. The clip with the rainbow pigeon, it's all naturally tie-dye colored. We're out there playing with this pigeon, right? And I always like to handle my pigeons because, just like to make that connection. I don't want to see things in a cage and out of reach. I want it to be real. And for me to be real, it's like, hey, you're my pet. Let's have fun. Let's do the paparazzi thing outside. And so we have a clip where I'm showing love with my wife and kids to the rainbow pigeon, Sherbert. That's what we call him, Sherbert. And upon playback, all right, when we're photographing Sherbert on my hand and everything, suddenly there's an EVP of a little boy. It sounds like a little boy. You don't know what these really are. And it says the number. And then afterwards, you have an artificial or AI kind of voice chime in saying, add salt. It's crazy. I went and played the number. I won. All right.
Wow.
And I timestamped everything beforehand, pictures and everything saying I'm going to win. Now people are like, well, why didn't you, if you thought you were going to win, why didn't you go out there and play like $1,000 and then you'd be like so filthy rich? It wasn't about that for me. I mean, maybe it's other people that's the way they look at life. It's all about the money. I think the money is, believe me, if I can take and convince people and convincingly demonstrate that we are not alone in the universe, all right, that's the winning lottery ticket. That's history right there. Everything else is floating around. If I can show, and that's the goal, that we're not alone, whatever that means, all right, because these beings say they're alien. Do we trust them? I don't know if I should trust them. They've been right about things. And they say they're otherworldly. Those clips are out there. It's all public. I posted a couple more things on my YouTube channel, what I'm calling the Halloween collection, where I'm taking the genuine EVP clip and I'm marrying it up to some Halloween images using AI. And then some people are like, oh my God, AI is so fake. AI is a tool. It has its place. The EVP clip is authentic. All right. So if I want to have the EVP clip where the being says in a lizard-like way that it's otherworldly, and you have a flaming jack-o'-lantern, that's all just fun and games. I don't take it seriously in the sense that this is real, and I have to wake up every day since 2017. We're going on 8 years this December, where this is my new normal. And I've had to come to grips with it. A lot of people are instantly going to categorize you as a nutcase, as an and even if you're right, they don't want. Believe me, skeptics. I'm talking about hardline skeptics. They don't want their paradigm to be capsized. So they'll do everything they can to make it so that, even if you are able to demonstrate this, and even if you have a network of scientists who have credentials, like I said, I'm not a scientist. I have a curious mind. I like poetry. I'm into that part of the reality of, I can be touched by music and I can be touched by poetry. Math doesn't move me. I can see the symmetry in like a spider web.
All right, guys, we got to take another break. We'll be right back. And now we're getting back to the bizarre.
When I was younger, I remember taking a little ruler, and there was dew outside, and there was you could see the spider web, hanging between the bushes. And I took the ruler, and I was able to measure the distances between the little parts of the web, and I was like, that's incredible how close these little spaces were. And there's a mystical quality to being alive. And I've asked before, I've asked the entities, why me? And they say things again. They like to jerk my chain. They say, we're sorry, you're our favorite. That's what they say. We're sorry, you're our favorite. Okay, so maybe being their favorite isn't a good thing. Maybe are they parasitical entities that actually feed off of emotions? I don't know. Like I said, they say they don't eat like we do, but that doesn't mean they don't consume something. Mm-hmm. Again, there's so much that's out there, but I could talk for hours. I want to give you the chance to talk.
Wow. I've got so many questions. I feel like you answered some of them as you were talking, but
had to lay the groundwork first.
I was over here jotting down notes the whole time you were talking, but
I'm glad.
So one of the questions I did want to ask is, do you think, well, first off, are you only able to receive these messages through this old track phone? Are you able to receive them through other mediums? And do you think the fact that it's this quote unquote older technology has something to do with being able to receive these messages, almost like a spirit box type situation that relies on like radio waves?
Yeah, again, there's different schools. So the more I moved into the research community, you have a school of people who think the track phone, the old models, because they don't have the filtering, the white noise filtering algorithms that the modern phones have. The older ones have a little bit more white noise to them. So that's what the entities use to, imprint what sounds like vocalizations. And then I have like that pigeon clip with the EVP. That was not a track phone. That was it was like a knockoff GoPro, and we were out there. Okay. But it picked up the information, the EVPs. And again, I've had these analyzed. They're genuine. There's no there's no way I'm trying to deceive anybody. Waveforms can be analyzed just like a fingerprint, or you can tell if somebody is trying to clip and merge and try to superimpose. Today's technology is very easy to spot a counterfeit. All right, even though the technology gets better to produce the counterfeit, there's just like a baseline. It's not within our means to fake these. So, yes, I have found that there are other media where I've been able to see. As well as here, I've been able to see, and I don't know if I live a charmed life or whatever. There was an imprint in the sand at the beach, and I was walking and I noticed it, and it came to me, I should play that number. I didn't, but it came out. It sure enough did, and I was like, oh, that's great. So I think whatever they are, and some would say angels, some would say devils, some would say maybe an extension of our own consciousness. Right. There's another facet to what we are that we aren't in touch with most of the time, whether it's multidimensional or whatever. So, yeah, I saw in the sand 4 digits and I had taken a picture and I was like staring at it. I came home and I didn't play it. And if I played it, I was probably going to win $100,000. So, yeah, and it's recent. I don't know what to say because people, like I said, people zero in on what they want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have all the answers. I've said before, this could quite possibly be. I mean, I use Occam's razor, right? The idea of that which requires the least number of variables is the more likely explanation.
Mm-hmm.
So, are we talking about ultra-terrestrials or aliens or interdimensionals or that our government or maybe some rogue group of people within the government have crossed technological thresholds that we can't even comprehend yet. So that we see a stealth fighter or something fly over and we're like, wow, look at that. But that technology, if you go back to Nazi Germany, you had stealth technology in their Horton, the flying wing, the jet engine. So the concepts were there. And to say, well, we just passed that Rubicon, like the internet now is for public consumption, but it comes out of military applications and stuff. In case we had a nuclear war, they wanted to have redundancy built in the internet, everything decentralized so that the launch codes could still go forward. And so, but we have this, this technology that's an outgrowth of that, just like with the space shuttle program, all that. Years later, we still have the tech. So the same thing. Am I arrogant enough to think that we, and number one, these have to be alien or otherworldly, or perhaps there's a group of people who have already passed the technological threshold to be able to read your mind, even as we already understand scientifically that between thought and reality, there's about at least a half second difference. Mm-hmm. And how we perceive the world and how things are happening. Could some nefarious group, maybe associated with Havana syndrome, could they exploit that difference so that they would seem to have an advantage over you? They would, because if it takes you a little delay and they don't have that delay, they could be almost seeming like they can read your mind, especially if they could somehow build in a few seconds. That would explain my EVP clips, a lot of them, which seem to be a telepathy or a form of it. If, let's say, there's a group of scientists or people who decided I'm a guinea pig and they throw me a bone every now and then and say, let him think it's aliens, we're going to let him win a couple lotteries and then we're just going to do this for the public too, because he's going to be on these podcasts because it's part of my nature to get out there and tell people. And it's a win-win for whatever group may be behind this. So I don't want to sound conspiratorial, but I have to be honest and say there are all these possibilities. So just because I have clips that these beings say they're alien or say they're otherworldly does not mean that is the case. And I have to be, like I said, otherwise I'd be, just presenting things with a spin.
Right.
I wrestle with this constantly, and I'm just like, wow, I do believe that when I still remember with my brother, and this is an example, parallel example. It was the late 80s. We were out. There was a thunderstorm, but it was a high altitude lightning storm. So there was no rain. So we're out walking on the school hill down from where I live. And we look up in the lightning between the clouds. The first time I saw a stealth bomber, and it was flying overhead. And I was like, again, it was like technology, but it wasn't beyond my imagination. And I was like, thank God I live in this country. They can create. I didn't think it was aliens. I was like, it's wonderful to think that America has created things like that. They're flying over. They look like from where I was, it looked kind of like a Batman vehicle. And I was like, it was amazing. But again, I never attributed that to anything supernatural or paranormal. And that's why I have to try to stay. There's part of me that says just because I don't understand it doesn't mean that it can't be something a little bit more pedestrian. So, but I will say this. The magic is real in the sense what I've been told, the way the world is, whether it's human beings that have advanced or progressed so far beyond what we think they have, because they're usually about 50 years ahead technologically as to what we know, which again makes me upset because I think, well, why are we fighting all these wars with old school equipment? Why, when we have energy that's, limitless, why are people paying electric bills? Why? Because there's certain groups of people who are in power who do, and it's the same thing, and the parallel can be drawn. If what I'm saying is true, which I am convinced 100% is true, that if things are not as we've been told, those people out there who stand to benefit from status quo, not capsizing their paradigm, making people upset, the lottery and all these things, and the government, and it just it really it starts to a whole can of worms where all I'm trying to put on the table, and this is what I stand on. This is again, interpretation is a different thing. I'm just saying there's a mystery here. It doesn't make sense. I'm able to do this if you have a military grade Faraday pouch, which is a smaller version of Faraday cage. I'm able to put these cell phones in there when the earringing happens and be able to record the messages inside the pouch. Now, science as we understand it, you have to qualify everything as where, my legal background always is like, well, you got to make sure that you're saying it with all the details. As we understand it, that's not possible. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't mean, obviously it's happening. So our understanding is the problem here. And it's the same thing with, I believe whatever I'm interacting with has a sense of humor. Mm-hmm. Again and again, I found it's a twisted sense of humor. Like if they are, let's say demonic or something, well, I mean, hey, they haven't hurt me, and I have, I don't run around and I don't do any occult practices. I don't practice anything like that. I could go on and I could talk for hours about all the things.
Hold that thought. We'll be right back after this brief commercial break. And we are back to the show. Let's hop right in.
Including, like, are you familiar with a port where something materializes out of the ether? And I have one. All right. I have one in my pocket. I carry with me. It's a pocket knife. And I carry it as like a talisman I don't believe it has any magical properties, but whatever it disappeared from us. And I looked everywhere for it because it came from my dad. God rest his soul. And it was gone. I went to the mall. I looked everywhere. I could have fallen out of my pocket. And then I'm sitting there weeks later, and it's a clear, sunny day. And I'm sitting there with my wife. We're watching television, and there's an explosion in our living room. I don't know how there's a thunderclap. And boom, there's the knife. and out of nothing, there it is. Now, I don't understand it, but I'm not going to say that it didn't happen. It did. And it's in my pocket, and there's the hard evidence. So, well, I mean, I was going to give that. There was a meeting with Gary Nolan in New York City. I was going to give it to him because I thought maybe he could analyze the metallurgy and find out if there's anything unusual about it. But again, I don't have the technical expertise. I mean, I don't understand any more than what I'm trying to put on tables. Hey, these EVP clips are pretty amazing. And not only am I able to have interactions with whatever it is, whoever it is, that give me answers to things I don't know, but also that seem to know things in the future a little bit. And I have the proof is my ugly mug all across Pennsylvania, and that's just a few months ago. And they will confirm me everything. If people want to say, "Well, this guy's full of it," talking about, I say, go out and independently verify. Do your own homework. I always tell students, do your homework. And when you do your homework, you're going to find out the Pennsylvania Lottery will confirm it. But they also said they will not talk about my technique because that could disturb people. So they'll say, hey, you won. Fine. And you won again. Fine. But as far as the technique and stuff, that is beyond, they're never going to do that. I mean, until the whole paradigm changes, and that is my goal, is to elevate this conversation so that everybody on their own can go out there and research. And, all my stuff, like I said, is free. I said, it's available. You can check it out. You can check out the documentaries free. Everything's free. The hardest thing I've found is trying to share it with people, because you go to podcasts and stuff and you're trying to get to the maximum audience. So I have something, and it's not a religion to me. I mean, I just want people to know, hey, things are not as we've been told. And whatever that means, evaluate it for the merits that, it's got merit to further investigate it. So.
Well, I've got a bit of, I guess, a observation that will lead into a question, if you don't mind humoring me for a moment.
Oh, yes.
So we talk a lot on the show about the connections between different, paranormal or high strangeness events. And what I think is so interesting about your story is, these EVP situations are most commonly associated with ghosts and, poltergeist activity and things of that nature. And the fact that these entities, whatever they may be, almost seem to have like a trickster nature, but they're presenting themselves, or telling you rather, that they're extraterrestrials. It almost makes me wonder, what could the connectivity between ghosts and paranormal and, like you said, ultra-terrestrials, aliens, things of that nature be? And something that I kept thinking about as you were telling your story, especially when you're talking about the government applications and the technology and whatnot. I don't know if you're familiar with Jack Parsons. He was a rocket engineer, rocket scientist in the early days of NASA, but also a practicing occultist. He was a kind of disciple of Aleister Crowley. Yes. But anyway, the point I kind of wanted to get to and ask you your thoughts on is, supposedly, around the work of this Jack Parsons fellow, the U.S. government back in like the 40s and 50s, there was a kind of clandestine, and this is all allegedly, but kind of a clandestine group within the U.S. government called the Collins Elite, supposedly, that thought this gentleman had kind of opened these portals that what was being presented as aliens were actual like biblical demons.
Right.
And, there's this idea that the U.S. government had kind of made a deal with these entities, whatever they may be, for technology. So just hearing your story made me just think about this over and over. It's like, oh, my God, this is like so much in line with things we talk about on the show. And I guess that was my really long-winded way of asking you an impossible question. What do you think these entities could be? What do you think they are in quote unquote real world terms, and what connection, if any, do you think they have to other paranormal and high strangeness type activity?
Okay. That's a good 3-part question. I believe other generations, historically have referred to angels, gods, jinn, which would be more of the Arab tradition. I believe that they're all part and parcel of that mysterious, paranormal quality. Yes, they're all. I think it goes back to consciousness. I think really that's the key. When you open portals, and I do believe, if you believe, you use the word believe, and you see the scriptures. When Jesus would go into towns where you didn't have people who believed, he couldn't do much. It says he didn't do much in those towns, but because they didn't have the faith. I think when people are open-minded, those portals, literally and figuratively, can open to a greater consciousness for good and evil. I think there's definitely a lot of scientific evidence that the Nazis were heavily involved in the occult, and were trying to summon whatever to get that advantage. And I have encountered entities that seemed to be evil, negative forces, even racist. And working at an HBCU, the last thing you want is to have some kind of entity in an EVP clip saying the N-word. It's not going to work. Right. And I don't care how you want to sugarcoat it. That's a negative. So when I hear something negative, I stop interacting with it. And I have it's interesting because in the early days of my interactions, I went to the library and I decided I was going to try to interact with them in a different way, with an attitude. So I went in and I said, "You're here to serve me." I basically flipped the script, and I wanted to be bold and to be cocky. Upon playback of this interaction, as this happened when you have the head, there seemed like there were several beings, but the head being, which sound masculine, said, "Rock dove," which is a put down, which means I'm a street pigeon. All right. That, and full well knowing that I have an affinity for pigeons. So you have this like, oh, here's the street pigeon talking like he's a big bird. But I think, again, I don't know. I have a clip. I have clips which sound like whoever it is suffering, like in hell. I have one that was recorded back in 2018 in October, and the voice says "constant hell." And then I don't know what it's saying. I hear the noise, and in my head I say, "Are you a devil?" So I say that out loud. And so upon playback of the clip, you have this scary voice saying "constant hell," right? And then you hear my question, "Are you a devil?" And afterwards, you hear this wispy little voice saying, "I don't want to talk about it." Like whatever pretentiousness or whatever mask it was wearing to try to intimidate, all that was peeled away, and you almost have pity for what you hear. So you hear this frightening, almost satanic voice at the beginning. You hear my question, which basically cuts to the bone of the issue. "Are you a devil?" And then you hear the wispy, fleeting, going away voice, "I don't want to talk about it." It was like, I have many clips. I haven't mentioned this in any other podcast, so this is a first, where there's a continuum of thought. So you have diametrically opposed, like I have a clip, and the ear ringing was happening, and upon playback, right? So the question I ask in the middle is it what do you want? At the beginning of the clip, nothing. At the end of the clip, the voice says everything. So you have that whole from beginning to end 5-second clip, and you have the voice at the beginning emphatically nothing, and at the end everything. And it's disturbing because, number one, I think it knows, just like being their favorite and yet we're sorry, that's not what I want to hear, because that upsets. I'm like, well, I can't be that kind of person where, I'm being played, right? No one wants to be gullible, and at the same time, no one wants to be seen as a street pigeon. So you can understand there's a certain level here of the interactions. If they're demonic, because I have one clip, and the voice says it's God. All right, it says I'm God. It certainly doesn't sound like God in my concept of God. It sounds wimpy. It sounds again, it sounds like it's toying with me. So to say that they are alien or otherworldly sure sounds interesting, but do I believe them? Why should I?
Sit tight, guys. We got to pay some bills. And now back to the show.
I have these other clips where they're contradictory. All right. I have a clip where in 2019, before Biden got the Democratic nod to become the nominees, 2019, all right, before COVID, I asked that question, the same question I asked in September 2020. The entity says loud and fast, Biden is going to win the election. By September 2020, it's Donald Trump. Okay, again, there are these contradictions. Mm-hmm. And that's where it's like a game. Whatever. When I was being, I have one clip, and this voice likes to recur. This voice calls me daddy. Now, I know. I said point blank, I am not your father to this thing, right? And then you have, it says, Daddy Cuddles. It's trying to say the name of our rabbit. An earlier clip, I asked the entities, what was the name of our rabbit that recently passed? Mm-hmm. And at the beginning of the clip, you hear an emphatic Cuddles, right? So whatever it is, and it could be, this is just one little amoeba of an entity that likes to play games, that likes to pretend. You ever see that? There's an episode of the old generation Star Trek.
I'm all over this one.
Okay. And you have the little alien boy. It looks like a little boy who runs the whole ship, but he has the alter ego, which looks like a big, he's trying to be scary and stuff and try to be imposing because he knows if Captain Kirk saw and the rest that, oh, you're the adversary here. You're the little guy. And he looks like maybe he's like 8 years old, but he's supposed to be an adult.
He's using the puppet of like the whole evil alien looking thing to try to like look like he's this evil emperor, but it's actually just this kid sitting behind with a little puppet trying to scare the whole ship. Yep, I remember that one.
That's the one. Well, I draw the parallel, at least in my mind, quite possibly, just as real as not. That's what I'm dealing with, something that is creating a projection. Whether it be, scary on one hand, whether it be, playful, whether it be trying to be endearing, again, there may be many of them. There may be just one parasite that's latched onto me, an invisible, I say this noise sounds like high pitched, like crystal, and it also sounds like a mosquito. So imagine if there is some psychic parasite out there, it feeds on emotions and stuff and likes to get a rise. And again, throws me a bone every now and then with some money, and has me on podcast because I don't know. I mean, and I have to be open-minded. So I'm sure people in the audience want clarity. They want, oh, this is alien, or this is demonic, or this is, you know what? I don't know. And I've been doing this for years. I do know one thing. They haven't hurt me. They've never told me to do anything, bad or evil. And if they did, I would cut them off. And I've actually, when there's been vulgarity where they've used lots of profanity sometimes, I said, that's enough of that. And then for the next 7 clips, I get apologies. We're sorry. Can you imagine? Number one, again, this is all manipulation. I really believe it. Mm-hmm. Where they get a rise, and I said they, and I'm using that just as a generic. I don't know if it's they or it gets a rise out of playing these games, because when I was doing remote viewing for some of these researchers on the West Coast and in Canada, I would say we're going to do a remote viewing exercise, and then upon playback, you hear, "Oh, we're going to play the game again. I like playing the game." Maybe this is all part of a game, and I have to be honest and upfront, and whatever questions people have, in the end, you got to do your own research. I'm saying, here's my real world results with this. Mm-hmm. And this could all be a simulation. These could all be glitches in the matrix. I could be dreaming somewhere. That was another thing. When this first started, I was so unnerved by it that I thought, okay, something horrible's happened. I've been in some kind of accident. I'm in a coma. This can't be real, because I saw things move. I mean, and I saw physical objects move, and I thought, that's not my world doesn't allow for that. Mm-hmm. But then I had to adjust. I had to, say, well, some things in life, whether you like it or not, are true. And you're going to have to, come to terms with it. And this aspect of life, I've asked different people to please debunk it. I wanted so badly, especially in the early days, that I wanted it to not be real, because I think what it opens up is that kind of feeling of vertigo, where it's just so much is then you realize it's beyond your control, that if there's an invisible realm that's interacting, because we only see a small fraction of the whole spectrum to start with. If you see pictures of butterflies and what hummingbirds see when it comes to the flowers, they can perceive a whole different range. and the colors that we don't even have. I'm saying, so what's my little brain, my tiny brain? I have to be honest and say there's probably a multitude of interactions with things that we can't see that maybe have consciousness, that have some intellect, and maybe they don't share our morals, and they don't eat like we do. Maybe they're parasitical. I mean, and maybe some of these cases of people doing bad things, maybe these beings have whispered in the ears or whatever of the leaders or people who've gone and shot up. I mean, it's frightening. And then you start to worry about, well, how can we live in a world where we are always under assault with things that we can't see or can't perceive? You know, I'm a believer that there is God and there is some kind of wondrous, and I say because my connection is Christianity. I don't understand all that. I mean, a lot of it has been humanized, but I think there's something behind all of it. You know, that there is a creator in the universe that loves creating. That there's such beauty in the world. Yeah, we can see the ugliness. That's always in our face too. But I'm telling you, when I see all the life and all the variety and I don't see this as just chance. I mean, evolution is only part of the process. I think it's like, maybe in closing, the idea is we could always, as human beings with our limited senses, approach things and understand maybe the mechanism, but we perhaps won't understand what's behind the mechanism, that ineffable quality, that mystery. And that's where, all I'm saying with my experience, the magic is real. I don't understand it. Again, you know, if this is actually human, maybe 50 years worth of, you know, of advancement in tech that we don't know about, well, you know, wow. Again, to me, it seems like magic. And they say that any, you know, the Arthur C. Clarke quote, that if you have enough time between cultures, it would seem like magic. If we took a cell phone back and showed it to people even in the Victorian age and stuff, they would look at it as like people, you know, and little pictures and being able to hear you know, conversations and stuff and see the pictures move. It would seem like magic. And if you go even further back, you know, there's a primitive man, maybe in the caves and stuff, it would be absolutely divine. Some kind of magic, sorcery. So yeah, if our species is already advanced to the point where some people, maybe even a nefarious group, have tech that they're able to read your thoughts in advance of what you're thinking, basically have an advantage over you. And yeah, that can be disturbing, but it can also be, again, something to ponder, to think, wow, you know, like I said, when I saw the stealth bomber the first time with my little brother, we were taking just like, it was absolutely a seminal moment, a moment that a touchstone saying, that's where I saw something. And it was like magic. I mean, but I understood it wasn't, but I'm saying to see something that it inspired me. That's all.
Mm-hmm. This is something that, just to throw in another closing thought on this one, something that we've been kind of pulling at the strings for a little while now. I mean, we definitely obviously take into consideration like the whole idea of UFOs. We don't by any means, you know, try to shut down the idea about extraterrestrials, UFOs, any of that type of stuff. But we've been pulling on the string for a while about there being a huge factor of the, quote, extraterrestrial phenomenon actually being some type of human tie. And we've connected a lot of stuff from like mask lines to just like really, really weird experiences like Cisco Grove that we recently covered that only seems to really make sense if you put it under like a human perspective. So this could definitely be one of those things that kind of just pulls at the line that this is just another human connection, because like you were kind of talking about, with technology being a lot earlier than what people actually imagine it is, we kind of started this chain going back to like the Nazi experiments and basically continuations of the Nazi experiments. So if you're looking at it from that facade, that goes into all the MK Ultra stuff that, you know, also leads in with the extraterrestrial stuff and their interest in you checking out these other places. I mean, it definitely seems like there could almost be like a tie here where, you know, they are doing some continuation of, quote, these MK Ultra type experiments and maybe even controlling both sides of the paradigm, meaning that, you know, we talk about all the time on the show, the whole conspiracy of the paranormal, that it seems like everybody just lets people run with it being these like ghost shows, that this is what the paranormal is. But it seems like there's this huge government interest in it. Like there's a whole other side to it that they're kind of just letting everybody muddy the waters with. So in a weird way, this connects two things that we've been talking about, that it could be more of an advancement on this paranormal side than what we believe that there is. And on the flip side, there being this human intervention with a lot of this strange phenomenon.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I think I go back to some of these prestigious scientists would not give me the time of day, because they're busy people, if I was full of it. So they know there's something to this. And maybe I think that some of them do know a little bit more than I do about what it really is. But whether I'm just, as a person who just happened to be at the right place at the right time and it fell into my lap kind of thing, I can't ever say that I wanted to be doing something like this. I mean, it's exciting on one level, and believe me, talking about winning the lottery, that excites people. But because everybody, but there's something to be said for, I really, and I don't want to be a conspiracist. I think, well, even that term, conspiracy theory, that came from the CIA in the 60s, they created that after the JFK assassination. There's a whole language it's crafted to.
It's newspeak.
Yes, it is.
Trying to spin the narrative and make people think a certain way. You see it all the time with news now, where they drop bombshell report or these specific words that make you think a certain way.
That's the truth. And so we are being manipulated. I have definitely been manipulated by these entities to think that they are what they probably are not. It doesn't mean, and it doesn't take away from the astonishment of like, wow, so this is possible. I mean, and even if let's suppose, let's suppose that it is something that is alien by definition or otherworldly, to even find that they're curious about interacting with us in the most mundane things, about pigeons. I can't imagine a being has traveled hundreds of light years to worry about what kind of homing pigeon and am I going to get how much are they worth? That to me, and I will say this, there's also, I look for patterns, and it's human nature. And I said that the person can make a mistake with pareidolia and see things that aren't there. All right. But I've seen a pattern in a lot of the interactions I've had. The language that they use seems like, when I was talking about making a documentary, they said, we're down with it. It seems like the 70s. I mean, I don't know why. It seems old school. And I was just like, so they say things that almost date them. And I'm thinking, and I interact with people in the UFO community a lot. Patrick Jackson, I don't know if you've been following him with his metallic spheres. He's out of the UK, and he is about to break big, because it's called, check him out. I don't usually refer to other people, but one of my friends, Patrick Jackson, is on the verge of breaking big, because it's called the Sphere Network, that our planet, and there's so much evidence to say there are these spheres that were not created by people that are here protecting us from something. All right. That whether they be ultra dimensional aircraft, flying saucers with evil intent, whatever it is, just check him out. So there's a little plug for his stuff, because this guy is onto something big. And now just like they're actually working. He's been in the United States Congress and stuff. All right, he's briefed people. People are in the know. There's something going on here. There's obviously go back to there's more than we've been told. All right, and we've been left in the dark about a lot of things. And I am not going to be a simpleton here. I mean, I'm certainly not. I'm not able to deceive myself and say I know it all. I don't know hardly anything. I mean, most of it is just a mystery, just as when this started. But I will say that it's intriguing. And whatever the source is, whether it be spiritual or whether it be paranormal or human tech or a marriage of all of them, it's fascinating stuff. And I could, like I said, I could talk for hours and hours, but I wish I could, but I can't.
Hold on tight, guys. This is our last break, so stay tuned. And we are back to the show. So let's hop right in. You got any closing thoughts, Orin, before we start wrapping it up?
No, I'm just going to say, Mr. Arnold, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story with us. Like you said, I feel like I could pick your brain for hours. Maybe we'll have to have you come back on the show at some point. I'm sure I could come up with a whole nother page of questions for you, but just thank you for sharing some of your time with us tonight. And it was so awesome to talk to you, and look forward to potentially talking to you again in the future.
Thank you. And be sure to check out my my website, my Launchpad, my compendium website, which is that We Are Not Alone Medium. I'm sure you can put it in your links and stuff.
Yeah, I'll include it down in the show description so everybody can find it easy too.
Yeah, it's got everything. I mean, all the talking I've done and all the experiences and everything, and links to all the free stuff. And just hope people enjoy it, because it's there for it really. I mean, I'm not getting anything from it. It's for everybody else. So.
Yeah, maybe Orin and I can go through, we can dissect the website a little bit, and we can do a round two. Because I always say with something like this big and heavy, you got to kind of lay the framework the first time. And then the second time, we can come back and really start like dissecting it up. And especially the limited time. We'll have to definitely come back when Orin and I can do some back research into your stuff. And see if we can uncover something new, or maybe throw some new thoughts and ideas on this whole thing.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yep. You guys have a good one.
You too, sir.
Bye-bye.
And if anyone would like to get in touch with us for any reason whatsoever, Shane, tell them how they can do that.
First and foremost, you guys can email us at bizarreencounters@outlook.com, or you guys can get a hold of us through social media. Instagram and Facebook are the two that we're the most active on, as you guys are probably fully aware of by now. You guys can also get a hold of us through the submission form, which is available up at the top of our link tree and goes directly to our email. And the last way you guys can get a hold of us is you can call or text the OMM hotline 24/7. That number is 313-364-1551. And if you missed any of that information, it is available down in the show notes.
And as always, you guys be sure to show some love to our friends and sponsors of the show. We've got our buddies Rick and Hans with I Know Squatch for all your squatchy gear needs. We've got our buddy Dave, a.k.a. the Snarly Yow, with Snarly Yow Natural Products. And we've got our buddy Joe with Cryptoteology for all your wowable cryptids.
I don't know why it's still funny to me as many times as we've done that.
It just never gets old.
It never gets old. And our other friends with affiliate links, Dimension Devices, which we've had a previous episode with a very long time ago. You guys can definitely go and check that out. And you guys can also check out Sticker Mule to get yourself some stickers, t-shirts, any of that stuff printed for your podcast, your business, whatever it happens to be. And there are some additional discounts and credits available for you guys down in that show description. So make sure you guys go and check that out.
And everything we've mentioned is in the link tree and the show description.
And with that, and with just like today's conversation, with a lot of stuff in the world, it tends to get into a really weird, bizarre realm very quickly. So just like us, like we always tend to do on the show, always, always stay bizarre, my friends. Bizarre. Bizarre.
The aliens won the lottery?
It's a conspiracy, man!